Hi, how are you doing? I hope that you're doing wonderful. So in this video, I'm going to be going over this concept, this understanding of what is known as the divine feminine. And this portrait right here is painted in 1480 by Botticelli. And what he's depicting here is the birth of Venus. So Venus is seen as the divine feminine, and this portrait is one of the most renowned portraits of all time in the time of the Renaissance and thereafter. So the Renaissance is a time period where the Italians are reimagining their awakening. So it's a reawakening. So this is actually referring to a time past. This reawakening is referring to a time when people used to be awakened and then they slept. So now they have to be reawakened. So something had happened in the past. So the divine feminine from this point on has been a variation of this figure, Venus, in different ways and depicted in different artworks. So understanding the divine feminine, we have to look at its history and its future and how it is right now. So, so here, when we look at Venus, what we're looking at is this deity. What we're looking at there, it's actually a planet. So this planet is named after the Roman goddess of love and beauty. So the Romans named this planet after the goddess. So the goddess came second after the planet. So the planet has always been there. So on the right there, what we see is the rotation of Venus from the perspective of the Earth. So when you're looking at Venus from the Earth, what you're going to see is that pretty petal flower that is being drawn naturally by the orbit of the planet, which is awesome. So Venus has been a major fixture in human culture for as long as records have existed. It has been made sacred by many cultures as the morning star and the evening star. So what we have there is what they call the pentagram of Venus. So the pentagram of Venus is the path that Venus makes as observed from Earth. So a pentagram has five sides. So these five sides are corresponding to two. So there I have 2 and 5 at the bottom. So what happens is that when you have 2 and you flip it over, you have 5. When you have 5 and you flip it over, you have 2. So 2 and 5 are interchangeable. So this pentagram of 2 represents morning and evening because it's 2 and it's 5. So the 5 petals are actually morning and evening. And this is how Venus is represented. So Venus is represented as the morning star and also as the evening star. So Venus has this dual nature. This feminine planet has this dual nature. So it has a duality. So this actually represents life and death. This represents good and bad. This represents dark and light. This represents the two polarities. So this is half and half. So half of 1 is 0.5, and this is why 5 is 2. So when the planet is moving, how it actually orbits is as is in the petal of Venus. So this is how it actually orbits around and this is around the sun, and this is how we actually see it from the Earth. So this is the effect that the influence of the planet has on us, and this is just how these planetary bodies were created. So Venus, the basis of Venus is to know that this is a duality. It's morning and it's evening, so it's 2 stars. So it's 2 in 1. So the divine feminine is an aspect of the self associated with creation, intuition, community, sensuality, and collaboration. So this actually talks about senses and thoughts instead of actions and logic. So what the divine feminine in Hindu mythology is, Hindu religion is Durga, who is also called Shakti. So the dual nature of this person is actually seen through that aspect, that this same person has the Durga aspect where she actually beats people up. Then she has the Shakti where she embraces people. So this is like the morning and the evening star. This is how the rage of the woman, like hell hath no fury like a woman scorned. and yet the woman is so gentle, so loving, and so caring. And the figurine below actually shows the original depiction of the divine feminine, and this is how it has looked all over throughout the centuries. And there, it's depicted as sitting on this throne with the lions, just like the one with Dugar and Shakti. So this has the power of the lions, and this is just representing power and force. So just looking back at the history of this is to understand where this comes from, right? So the original Venus figures were found in France, Spain, Germany, Italy, Switzerland, everywhere. The Middle East, Russia, Australia, Czechoslovakia, China. But the earliest ones were found in Africa, around Morocco. And they're dated like to be 300,000 years old. And, that's crazy. But the rock is the real age of it. So this is something that was found in Morocco. So this goes back so far back. This is why the history of this is important. And this is so universally blending. So when we look at how this actually goes, is that all over the countries that these figurines have been found, they always look the same, and they've always looked like this. They've always represented Venus. They've always represented the morning star, the evening star, the lion, the feminine, the woman, the power, the reproduction, and everything. And they've been seen all over the world. So from Czechoslovakia to China, you see these figurines. You see them just depicting this rather big woman who is already pregnant. So she's already pregnant, representing fertility. And this is the woman who is depicted in even in Egypt in the story of Isis. This is the woman who's holding the baby. This is the Madonna and child. This is the divine feminine. So when we're looking at the pictures that we now have of the Mother Mary and all of that, when you're looking at that, what you're actually seeing is this variation, but this is the original. So this has been in so many different countries all over the world, and this just shows this feminine figure, and this represents life. It represents abundance. It represents providence, protection. It represents power, warmth. All of these things are embodied in this understanding. So these are all called Venus. Like, these are all Venuses. This is what they actually are. And this is what the divine feminine is. And as has always been understood, this actually represents a black woman. And this is just the representation of it as a black woman. So in Egypt, there's this queen of Punt called Ati. And this queen Ati lived in what they called the land of God. So this was actually carved in a place in Egypt, a female pharaoh's tomb, a female pharaoh's temple, which was called the Holy of Holies. So what this actually represents was them meeting this figure who they call someone who is divine, a divine feminine. So this was actually a representation of that person. So this is Queen Ati. And this is a representation of Venus, actually. And this queen comes from this land of Punt. And this Punt land is where the Egyptians said that they came from. This is their motherland. And this land of Punt is actually a land of Pantu. So this was in the southern part of Africa. So this is documented on the walls and in the books in Egypt, and papyrus and on the walls. So this was the Pantu queen, who actually represents this figure, this aspect, and this energy. And this is who she was. And the man in front of her is her husband. That's King Pehuru. So this is what it is. And she's called Ati, which is akin to that understanding of who she is to those people. Okay. So Venus is Eve, and Eve is sent to even us. in the evening. So the name Adam and Eve is Adam is one, but then Adam was the one person, but Adam means many. So this is why Eve comes to even us or even Adam in the evening. So she represents the evening or evening out the odd number. One is an odd number, two is an even number. So she is actually literally evening it out. So she is Venus. She represents Venus, and she represents his love. So the divine feminine is literally called an ancestor, which is aunt and sister, ati, sister. So this ancestor is in some Bantu languages called Tete and Guru, which is aunt Tete, ati, and Guru, great. So the great ati, the great auntie, the ancestor, the ascended aunt. So this figurine to the right is the one that's been traditionally carved by the people in Africa from the Yombe tribe and some other places within Africa. So what it actually shows is this divine feminine with a child, and this is the Madonna with child, and this is the one that's currently the one that's like when you're actually seeing Mary holding a child in the Catholic churches, what you're actually looking at is a variation of this. So feminine, actually, this figure is called Femba, and this name means that is the name, and this means thoughts, like Fembera. This means Fema, which is the root for female. Fema is breath. And from this is where we have fermentation, like a person who grows in the womb. This is where we have the breath, the Fema, right? And this breath is where we actually get Rhea. Like the Greeks call this person Rhea. And from Rhea, that's where they have breath. That's where they have area. So the area is the feminine, the area is the land, which is the mother earth, and this is Rhea, or the area. This is the breath, like the Rhea is in the middle of the breath. So from this Fema, the breath of life is where we, like, everyone gets the breath of life from a woman. We start to breathe because of a woman, and from this breath we get it from a female always. So feminine is this female, and nine, this thought, divine thought, Fembera, and nine. But here's the thing, Femba also means nine, literally means nine. So Femba is 9 plus 9. This is 18, and 18 is 8 plus 1, which is 9. So this person is representing 9. The number 9 is the number of the fruit of the spirit. So this is what's being represented by the number 9. So this is Femi 9. This is Fema 9. This is the breath of 9. This is the breath of the fruit of the spirit. So this is the feminine. This is how we have the understanding of Adam and Eve. So through this, we actually understand all of the, we actually understand the origin of the divine feminine as being related to perhaps even the land of Punt, but it's being related to the original feminine who gave everybody life. So this feminine is called 9 because through this understanding of pregnancy, of sex, and all of these things, she was able to be the first one who counts. So the moon represents the feminine. The moon represents Venus. So the moon represents the feminine because the moon has all of the different phases. So these phases are representing different numbers. So the first divine feminine was the first mathematician because they were able to count using the moon. And the moon gave them the person. So a person, like in Bantu languages, when a person is on a menstrual cycle, it's actually called that. We actually say that the woman is on the moon. This is literally the translation because the moon dictates how the man is formed. So the moon in the understanding of certain people is that the moon is actually the man. The moon is the egg inside the stomach. And this egg is the moon because it is literally governed by the moon, the tides of the moon and everything. So the divine feminine knows this, and this is how they get the 9. This is how they get the fruit of the breath of the spirit. So some of the variations to this name is actually interesting because in Bantu, Bantu just means Vanu. And we see that the Bantu queen represents this divine feminine. And she is the Bantu queen or Vanu, Munu, which just means people. And Munu is the moon. Munu is the sun's image and likeness. That's what the moon is. And that's how people are created in the image of God. God is the light, and the light, the sun's image and likeness is the moon. So this is the Munu, this is the Bantu. And the moon is also called Mwezi, and this is where we get Mats or Ma'at. So Ma'at is the law of balance in Egyptian understanding. This is the law of Mats because Mats is always balancing, because it's always equal something. And this is some equation because this represents the morning and the evening star. So the moon is also the evening, right? And this is where we get Mu, and this is representing the cow. So when people are talking about the holy cow, the sacred cow, this is what they're actually talking about, which is important to understand that when the Israelites were leaving Egypt, what they did was to first of all try to carve a cow because this is how they understood it from the land that they were leaving. So they were actually just carving this understanding. But the idea of them leaving Egypt was so that they would understand a higher reality. So this is what it represents. And this represents the human, the Munu, the moon, right? But it's also the human or the wolfman. This is how, like in Twilight, they like those beings change with the moon. So this is like the werewolf, right? But the human or the human is a person who always used to say who, like to signify that a person is coming. They would always go like who. And this human is just the woman and is the human and is from the moon man. So this is to understand this. So understanding the supremacy of God and everything in it is the key to this. So just to wrap this up, talking about the divine feminine is something that's interesting. And this is mentioned in certain places in the whole Bible, right? So one thing to notice is that when the Son of Man is talking to the church of Thyatira, in Revelations 2:26, he says this: "To the one who is victorious and does my will to the end, I will give authority over the nations, that one will rule them with an iron scepter and will dash them to pieces like pottery, just as I have received authority from my Father. I will also give that one the morning star." So whoever has ears, let them hear what the Spirit says to the churches. So this is actually representing the certain duality that is in this book of Revelation. So this is a revelation which reveals. So in this book, you're actually going to discover that in this verse especially, it first of all talks about the woman called Jezebel, as opposed to this woman who is the morning star. So Jezebel is the evening star, and this one who will be given. Now this one will be given. So this is the morning star. This is still Venus. This is the morning star. Okay, and it talks about Jezebel and how she is corrupt, and at the same time it talks about the morning star, and we know that the morning star is Venus. So when you read this story, you're going to see that there's also the higher theme. Like this is speaking to an individual. But when it speaks to the multitude, there is a woman who is depicted in Revelation 12, and she is already pregnant, just like the divine feminine is always pregnant. She's always fertile, but she ends up giving birth. And then when she gives birth, there's a dragon that tries to take her baby. But then God teleports the baby to his throne and keeps the baby. And then the dragon now tries to persecute the woman's children and stuff like that, but then it doesn't prevail. But this woman is the divine feminine who's pregnant and who gives birth. and this is representing this morning star. But in opposition to this woman is the harlot who is riding on the dragon and who is blaspheming. And this is actually representing the Jezebel, the evening star. So understanding that this is a duality of these two women. When you're reading the book of Proverbs, what you're actually reading about is a divine feminine called Sophia, and she is the one who is the divine feminine. She's the one who gave birth to everything. If you read Proverbs chapter 8, she's talking about how she is the divine creator of everything, but she is created by God. So this is how Adam creates Eve, and Eve creates everyone else. So this is the replica. So this philosopher, this woman, philosophy, Sophia, is the divine feminine. Sophia is Femba. She is the ultimate fruitfulness of breath. She says it in that understanding and that aspect. So understanding the morning star is also understanding the evening star. So this is just to let you understand what the divine feminine is, and the interesting correlation that she has with the Queen of Punt, because in all of history, I don't know if there has been such a correlation, because the Queen of Punt is the one they say lives in the land of God. And she, by all means, represents that wisdom and that number 9, that productivity. So yeah, this has been it, and I hope that this is very beneficial to you. So I'll see you soon. Thank you a lot.